100 years according to time on the Brahmaloka planet. But one day of Brahma is equal to millions of years on this planet. Similarly, the days on the heavenly planets are equal to 6 months on this planet. Day is equal to 6 months, right? On every planet, however, the span of life for a human being is roughly 100 years. According to the lifespans on different planets, the standards of living also differ. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please repeat after me. The great sage Narada continued. My dear king, those two, the man and the woman, supporting one another through mutual understanding, entered that city and enjoyed life for 100 years. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat krupatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So, the descriptions of the characteristics of King Puranjana, that is the title of the verse, title of the chapter. So, let's be clear about one thing. This chapter, it may appear that this chapter seems to be promoting Grihastha life. So, I am adding that as a disclaimer right in the beginning. Seems to be, appears to be promoting Grihastha life. So, before this verse, so the woman is addressing this handsome prince Puranjana, or the king, and she is saying something like, in this material world, the householder's life brings all kinds of happiness in religion, economic development, sense gratification, and the begetting of children, sons, grandsons. After that, one may desire liberation as well as material reputation. The householder can appreciate the results of sacrifices which enable him to gain promotion to superior planetary systems. All this material happiness is practically unknown to the transcendentalist They cannot imagine such happiness. This is absolute make-believe advertisement for the glories of the Grihastha life. This lady is addressing King Puranjana, is saying, how can the transcendentalist know about the happiness that is there in Grihastha life? She's saying, after enjoying so much, then in the end we get promoted to the higher planetary systems, also known as heavenly planetary systems, where the standard of material happiness apparently is much higher than what it is here. And then she says, all this material happiness is practically unknown to the transcendentalists. They cannot even imagine such happiness. So she's making a desperate attempt to portray Grihastha life in a manner that it is not. Then in the next verse she goes on to say, the woman continued, according to the authorities, the householder life is pleasing not only to oneself, but to all the forefathers, demigods, great sages, saintly persons, everyone else. A householder life is thus very beneficial. So I'm just going through some of the previous verses. So here is this lady who is telling Puranjana, convincing Puranjana that you're making the right decision by coming to me and trying to seek my hand and trying to get married to me. So it's the most correct decision. Not only will you be happy, but this decision of yours will please the forefathers, the sages, the residents of the higher planetary systems, forefathers, demigods, great sages, saintly people and everybody else. She uses the word Bhutanam. The word used in Sanskrit is Bhutanam, means all living entities will become happy. Whereas, you should also remember that in Bhagavatam, sometimes some statements like this appear. I mean, if there was actually that kind of that level of a happiness that is being portrayed in Grihastha life, this lady is making it appear as if it's just one unending flow of happiness that you will experience. Then obviously there's some catch in this statement. It cannot be taken on face value for the simple reason that if that were the case, then we can ask this question, that why is Narada Muni himself not a Grihastha? Something like that we can ask. Because he is speaking this, but he himself is not a Grihastha. So, this is like when we study life, this is like it's a serial kind of a thing. So this is one episode, then followed by another episode and another episode. Ultimately, forget about Grihastha life. Forget about Grihastha life. No life in material world which is separated from unconditional surrender to your Guru, there is happiness. Now what to speak of Grihastha life? There cannot be, Grihastha life is no exception. In this material world, only that person who is completely surrendered to the mission of his Guru, mission of Krishna, mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, completely surrendered, completely, sincerely, enthusiastically engaged, uninterruptedly in the mission of Lord Chaitanya, only he is entitled to be happy, nobody else. This material world, by definition, there cannot be happiness in any other form of activity. It is not possible. Because it's built like that. The material world is made like that, that it will not give you unadulterated happiness in any other type of activity except when you are under the shelter of the lotus feet of your Guru and following his order. That is where there is happiness. That is where there is peace. That is where there is happiness, peace. That is when your forefathers, your rishis, the munis, pitrus are truly happy with you. Of course, you could say they will also be happy with you when you are a respectable, honorable Grihastha, because you are in the sense that being a respectable, honorable Varnashrama Grihastha is better than being a rascal. You know what I mean? Better than being a third-rate person. That's all. Only in that sense they will appreciate you. But they will be extremely pleased when you do anything anything for the pleasure of your Guru. That is when they are extremely pleased. This is all right. This is what is expected of everybody. Be an honorable, respectable grahastha. So your forefathers are kind of happy, but they're not as delighted as they are when you're completely dedicated and surrendered to the lotus feet of your Guru. For example, when it is said that when Hanuman took up that unbelievable challenge of trying to jump across the ocean to reach Lanka, he didn't even know if he would be able to make it the whole distance. But he took it as he said, I have no other option but to try. If I fail doing it, I don't mind. If I fail and something happens to me and something happens, I don't mind. In the sense that it is better than not trying. Let me die in battle. Let me die in action or something like that. So it is said that when he took off in that mood of surrender, in that mood of absolute total surrender, in other words, he gave up even that desire for self-preservation he sacrificed. Even that desire for self-preservation, self-protection he sacrificed, he jumped. He said, I don't even know if I'll come back. I don't even know if I'll make it to the other side. I don't even know if there's anything that's going to come in between me and reaching that shore. I don't even know what will happen to me, but my business is to try. So it is said that all the denizens of the heavenly planets, they were so overjoyed that they showered flowers on him, saying, you are a perfection. This is a perfection of submission to your whatever, perfection of being a dasa. Shall we say that? We can say that. Perfection. You're practicing, you're implementing perfectly the mood of what is expected of a servant. They were so happy that they showered flowers on him, and they appreciated. And they all said, equivalent of whatever we say Hari Bol, they all said something equivalent of that when Hanuman did that. That is called pleasing the Pitrus, pleasing the Devatas, pleasing the demigods, pleasing the saints, pleasing all of them. That is what is called pleasing them, not what is being referred to here. I mean, there's a whole difference between what is being referred to here and what Hanuman was able to achieve. We should always understand that when we follow Varnashram, it's like when Ramananda Raya said that, okay, higher than just following your duty, higher than that is do your duty and not be attached to the fruits, higher than that is, be a Varnashrama Grahastha. Somewhere along the line he says, be a respectable, honorable, respectable Varnashrama Grahastha. Lord Chaitanya says, that's good, that's not bad. That's good. Nobody said it's bad. But what does Lord Chaitanya say? He'll say, there's some, Lord Chaitanya says, tell me more. Tell me something more. Tell me something higher. Tell me something even better. Tell me something higher. Obviously, there are many levels of surrender which are much higher than being a grahastha. It's being screened, huh? So, obviously there are much higher levels of surrender. So, of happiness or play. So, Lord Chaitanya tells Ramananda Rai, there must be something. I don't know what's the Bengali thing. Ara aage bol, something like that. Aage ko. Tell me something more. Tell me something more. Tell me something more. Tell me something higher. Tell me something higher. Tell me something more. I'm sure there's something more. But when slowly Ramananda Rai comes to a point where he just introduces the concept of unconditional and unconditional and unmotivated service to Krishna, Guru, Krishna. Then Lord Chaitanya says, now you are saying something. Now you are saying something worthy of hearing. Tell me more. Tell me more. So, in the what shall I say, in the pecking order, they say, in the sequence in which, if we were to rearrange, pleasing the pleasing the Pitrus, etc., 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 by becoming a grahastha comes way down the line. But when someone becomes a servant of the Lord, servant of Guru Parampara, completely dedicated, unconditional, unmotivatedly, serving them with enthusiasm, with simplicity, with transparency, without even a serious concern for self-preservation, then you're delighting the previous acharyas. So I mean, we are not supposed to get carried away by some statement like this that Narada Muni is making. Actually, the same Narada Muni goes elsewhere. Here he is talking to Prachina Barhi because he wants to we have to look at it in what context Narada Muni is saying. Narada Muni is saying this statement because he wants to get Prachina Barhi out of his attachment for, what are they called? Out of his attachment for performing animal sacrifices in order to elevate himself materially. Not spiritually. Prachina Barhi's only goal apparently, or it appeared that his only goal was to elevate himself more and more materially, and then in this context, in order to get him out of the platform of performing animal sacrifices, in order to help him get out of the platform of animal sacrifices, Narada Muni is using Puranjana's story as an allegorical example to get him out of that. So you have to view it in that context alone. But in an absolute sense, if you were to see, okay, where does the Grihastha life fit in? Of course, in Kali Yuga, it is said that, unfortunately, sannyas is not recommended at all. So, Prabhupada says, sometimes he says that a concession is given to all of you because you can't chant 64 rounds. I'm saying, all right, chant 16 rounds. And if you chant 16 rounds, don't worry, it's the same as chanting 64 rounds. But Prabhupada makes it very clear. It's a concession I'm giving because I don't think you can consistently chant 64 rounds day after day after day. I'm telling, all right, chant at least 16 rounds. Similarly, because in this age of Kali Yuga, it is mentioned that it may be difficult for us to lead honorable, shall I say, honorable lives, honorable celibate lives. So a concession has been given. All right, you at least marry each other, become dampati. Pati means husband, dam means, I guess it refers to the wife. So you become honorable, wedded, whatever, and support each other. Now, see, a lot will also depend on what is the objective of Grihastha ashram. Now, here it appears from the Puranjana example that the purpose of Grihastha life is definitely not to help each other advance spiritually. That's not the mood in which the lady is speaking. The lady is speaking that there is so much joy, there is so much happiness. We'll have children, we'll have grandchildren, there will be reputation, you'll become a famous man, then you will get promoted to the heavenly planets. You'll get promoted to the heavenly planets. And then maybe because we have santan, we have this and that, maybe your forefathers will be happy, the sages will be happy. Yeah, I told you in what context they'll be happy. They'll be happy in the context that you're at least following Varnashrama and you're not outside Varnashrama. You're not outside, your activities are neither illegal nor illicit. To that extent, what you're doing is honorable, so we will accept it. But it's very clearly that the mood of this Grihastha ashram that is being depicted here is promotion to the heavenly planets or go on progressively increasing the level of material happiness. That's not what Bhagavatam has been written for. Bhagavatam has definitely not been written in order to promote this. So why has Bhagavatam been written? Why Bhagavatam has been written and compiled only to what shall I say, promote the idea of ahaituki apratihata bhakti. For that matter, when Parikshit Maharaj was about to leave his body within 7 days, what does Sukadeva Goswami say? Sukadeva Goswami says, I mean, there's no trace of lamentation in what Sukadeva Goswami says. All right, you have 7 days, at least these last 7 days of your life, you can engage fully in hearing about the intimate instructions, or shall I say, confidential instructions of the sages, Krishna, different avatars, and so on. So that way you can. There's a hope that your bhakti will grow so much and become so strong that maybe at the end of this whole process you will be blessed with eternal association with Krishna. Sukadeva Goswami is not saying, okay, now come sit down, I'll teach you how to go to the heavenly planets, this planet, you choose which planet you want to go to. He could have. He's a great transcendentalist, he could have, but he says no, just think of going back to Krishna. Going back to Krishna. Now this is as much true for Sukadeva Goswami's instructions of Parikshit, as much true for him as they are true for us, which is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that Bhagavatam is the primary scripture. Somehow or other we have to make time for Bhagavatam. That is the whole challenge in Kali Yuga, that we have the capacity to get distracted very easily. Our capacity to get distracted or indisciplined is very easy. I mean, just doesn't require much effort for us to become distracted, diverted, and indisciplined. So the challenge is that no matter how many, whatever changes that happen in our life, somehow we have to find time for Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the other books that Srila Prabhupada speaks about and recommends. We have to read, we have to read, we have to contemplate, we have to discuss. We definitely have to discuss also about the conclusions of this. So, in the context of today's verse, what we can say is that here is a lady who is desperately trying to trap this handsome prince called Puranjana by saying, in flowery language, trying to explain about Grihastha life. Now, and Puranjana probably, he will fall for it. He has already fallen for it, because before the lady speaks, Puranjana speaks. Puranjana is glorifying her, saying, "You're so beautiful. You're so exceptionally beautiful. I can't take my eyes off you. If I were to marry anybody, it would be you. If I were to associate with somebody intimately, it would be you." So Puranjana has already fallen, and she's encouraging him. And they plan to, whatever, it's an allegorical story. Nevertheless, they plan to unite. But the point is that this is what is the context of this story. But she without any hesitation, she is presenting a particular level of what she calls material happiness. But we all know that there is no such thing as material happiness. There cannot be, there is not, nor will there ever be in the material world happiness when you are removed, when you are away from Krishna and when you are away from your Guru's mission. Happiness means serving your Guru's mission, being surrendered to your Guru's mission. That is where there is happiness, there is satisfaction. And the example that we saw was that of, let's say, Hanuman, because he displayed that level of surrender, that level of understanding that my life is meant to serve my Guru, my authority, my Lord Rama. This is what, and in the process of serving him with dedication, even if something were to happen to me, that's okay. I'm meant to serve him. This body is meant for him, meant to be engaged in his service. And in the process of serving, if something were to go wrong, that's perfectly okay. He was ready for it. That is the level at which he surrendered. So why won't such an action please the Pitrus or the forefathers? The entire class of the Gandharvas, the Yakshas, the Charanas, the Siddhas, all of them, Nagas, everybody was so delighted by Hanuman's show of unconditional, fearless surrender and acting on a platform of being a servant of Lord Rama. So here we have to view it in that context, because the same Narada Muni instructs the sons of Prachetas. What does he say? He says, don't make that mistake of going and becoming a Grihastha. You're all lucky. You're all lucky. Stay where you are. Continue as sadhus. Continue as transcendentalists. You're not going to miss anything. Whatever you would experience by getting married, you have already experienced in many previous lifetimes. Puna puna charvita charvananam. But Maya is so powerful that we will continue to do the same mistake. Maya is so very subtle and powerful and deceptive, we will continue to do the same mistake. So deceptive that we will unhesitatingly do the same mistake. After hearing all this also, there is no guarantee that we won't do. So that is why, but doesn't matter, a concession has been given. It's said that in Kali Yuga, it doesn't matter. Be honorably situated as a Grihastha, because it's very difficult to be celibate. But having situated oneself as a Grihastha, what should be the goal of life? At least at that level, what should be the goal of life? What should be the goal of life? It's without any hesitation, at least we should keep that as the goal of life. I want to help her, and it is her business to help me. Both of us together should achieve a platform of unconditional, unmotivated, uninterrupted, total, complete surrender to the mission of my Guru. That should be the goal. Unmotivated, uninterrupted, what is it called? Enthusiastic, active engagement in the service of the mission of my Guru. That should be the goal. That is the purpose of Grihastha life. That is the purpose of Grihastha life. And Prabhupada said such Grihastha life is as good as sannyas, no different from sannyas. So this is the standard of the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam does not speak about the happiness, of course here and there, wherever in a contextual, there is a contextual necessity to speak about the happiness in the Nandana Kanana forests and reservoirs and on the slopes of Mount Kailash or something like that, what kind of happiness one can experience. That's presented even in the Ramayana also. Ramayana also speaks about it. I'm not so sure how much it is there in Mahabharata, but definitely the Ramayana also speaks about happiness that Grihasthas or people on the high planetary systems they have access to. But nevertheless, in Ramayana there is also this story about how Bharata feels he has been cheated because he was denied the opportunity to go and serve Lord Rama in the forest. Though he is having access to highest forms of pleasure in this material world, he says, no, that's not what I want, that's not what makes me happy. What makes me happy is being as a servant situated at the lotus feet of my master, Lord Rama. He feels cheated that he was not able to go. And he feels that that's the only place where there's happiness. So he looks at staying in Ayodhya with his wife and family as a torture, as a punishment. He looks at staying in Ayodhya with his family, wife and ruling the kingdom as a punishment, as a torture. And he says, Lakshmana is lucky, fortunate, blessed. He is able to serve Lord Rama there. How I wish I could be given that permission. Why did my mother wish I should be the king? She could have chosen something else. I would have been so happy. Why did she punish me? He's thinking, why was I punished? Why was I cursed to be like here while Lord Rama is elsewhere? So that is the standard of a devotee as explained as devotee. That is the standard of a devotee. And why won't Bharata please? Bharata pleased everybody in his life. That's why everybody, whichever ashram he went to, whichever on his way to find Lord Rama, wherever he went to, all of them blessed him. This is such an amazing mood you have. You have truly understood the value of human form of life. You have truly understood the greatness of bhakti. You have truly understood how happiness is. There's only one place where you get happiness, that is either at the lotus feet of the Lord or his representative, Guru. So this is the standard of the Bhagavatam, and one is not supposed to get enamored when one reads statements like this. Beautiful woman, well-shaped, this and that. No. At least we begin by reading. And someday, by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, maybe we will develop that kind of a faith and conviction. But at least the process of transformation begins by reading and hearing. Hearing and reading, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, daily. So these set of verses where the woman is glorifying Grihastha life for the purpose of material enjoyment, has to be looked at very suspiciously. Like I said, it has to be seen in what context she is speaking. The context in which she is speaking is, I have explained to you, Narada Muni is explaining to Prachina Barhi, so that he can stop doing animal sacrifices. That's all. In order to achieve that, Narada spins this whole example story. But as far as we are concerned, for us Grihastha life means we have to always remember an example like that. I told you the example of Bharata. He thinks it's torture, it's curse that I have been asked to stay here in the city amidst the riches of Ayodhya. Was one of the richest cities of the whole universe at the time when Lord Rama was present and when Dasharatha was ruling prior to Lord Rama. But Bharata says this is torture. I'd rather stay under a tree serving the lotus feet of Sitaram. That would have been so nice. I've been cheated, I've been cursed that I cannot have access to their lotus feet and their service, and I've been cursed to stay here. That is our standard. That should remain our standard. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Any questions, comments? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Yeah. Why is Narada Muni trying to prevent animal sacrifices? The only purpose for which animal sacrifices is undertaken is to gain materially. You see, strictly speaking, in the Ramayana it's mentioned that there was an animal sacrifice that was performed when Lord Rama was conceived. There also was an animal sacrifice. But that was for a higher, very, very higher spiritual cause. So the Ramayana speaks about it. But in this case, Prachina Barhi became very expert at conducting animal sacrifices just to increase his piety. Piety means punya, so that he can increase his level of material, shall I say, strength, vigor, wealth, name, fame, power, etc., etc. Primarily material. So Narada Muni says, no, I mean, how can you be so cruel just to aggrandize yourself? You're going to the extent of killing animals. I mean, don't they have a right to live? Just as much as you have? How can you say their right to live is any less than mine? Or yours is more than that of theirs? Their right to live. Narada Muni, you can't, this kind of nonsense Narada Muni will not accept. So he said, why are you doing this? Just be satisfied. I mean, even the Bhagavad Gita, the entry-level book of divine instructions on the path of bhakti, Krishna is saying, just be satisfied with what you get on its own accord. Why do you want to grow materially? What for? What for? Focus on your duty as a servant of your guru or something. Why do you want to become more famous, bigger than the biggest, larger than the largest? Why? What? I mean, you want to compete with God, ultimately? You want to compete with Indra, Brahma, God himself? So Narada Muni, the renunciants can detect that it's basically an urge to compete with God himself. And you want to kill animals for that? So Narada Muni finds it quite disgusting, but see, they are so expert. One thing we can see is that he expertly spins this story, metaphorical example of Puranjana, in order to take him out of that platform. He doesn't go and attack him directly. Preaching means that. Very cleverly, very intelligently, very patiently talking to him and getting him out of that platform where he is performing animal sacrifices. Mercilessly performing. Actually, in one of the verses, I don't know which verse, it is said clearly that all those animals are waiting. When will this Prachina Barhi die? So when he dies, they want to get back at him. See, forget about animal sacrifice. Nothing should be done in order to promote ourselves materially. Or our material, it said even chanting of the holy name. Nothing should be carried out in order to improve one's material situation. Okay? Everything should be done as an offering to increase our bhakti, dedication, like that. Did I answer your question? Any other question? Tantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shri Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki Harinam Sankirtan Mahayagya ki Nitai Gaur Premanand.